So I was waiting for the end of the figure skating season to do a Russian everything skating video, but Miss Licious requested that I do the Russian national, so here we go. First, I would like to start off with a disclaimer. For the past 2.5 years, I have been keeping Miss Petty Betty at bay. Unfortunately, in this video, she would not be silenced and there was not much that I could do. But I am letting you guys know ahead of time what to expect. Now for the 2022 Russian National, let us start with some positivity. 'Tis the season. For me, positivity in Russian figure skating starts with the pair. Now, I will continue to say this. Russian pair skating is a dynasty. They know how to put a pair together, how to teach them elements, how to train them. And it goes without question. If the Russians were competing this season with the absence of Sui and Hong, Peng and Jen, the Russians would dominate. Maybe Alexa and Brendan and Ryuichi and Riku might have won a bronze here and there, but the Russians would without a question dominate. And that just goes to the depth that they have in that particular discipline. Now for the top 3 pairs in Russia, starting off with Tarasova and Morozov. They're like this is like a Humpty Dumpty situation where all of Eteri's minion just could not get these two to perform 2 clean programs. An entire little village of coaches could not get this ship the right way. There is no way that Tarasova and Morozov should not be dominating Russian pairs skating. I mean, if we are comparing them with Sui and Han, yes, in terms of charisma, in terms of projection, in terms of performance, in terms of originality, in terms of taste, Candyman, we will never forget the fact that you brought that to the Olympics. In terms of taste, yes, Sui and Han is way ahead of them. But when we're talking about elements, lift, throws, spins, Tarasova and Morozov are the better pair. So for them to not be leading at home, given how talented they are, this has nothing to do with skill and it is completely mental. And if Eteri and her little henchmen cannot get them to do 2 clean programs to beat their competitors at home, then no one can. Obviously, no one can. But what Eteri is doing for her 40% is she is getting them to medal on some competition where obviously if I was the one judging, they would not be on that podium. Eteri is using her 40% to do the good work. I will say that much. So they are now, I guess, permanently fixed as the 3rd pair in Russia when they obviously should be leading. Then we go to Mishina and Galliamov. I know Tatiana did not put my man Galliamov in a Santa onesie. I don't care how you call it, Elvis or not. My man is in a onesie, a red, shiny onesie. And why would you do that, Tamara? Why would you do that to my man who has such beautiful, exquisite line? Why would you put him in a Santa onesie? Again, I prefer this team to the other 2 top 3 Russian team. And the reason being their personality. They have big elements, big twists, big throw, but they don't have the charisma of a Sui and Hong. They don't have the depth of edge of Tarasova and Morozov. They don't have the presentation of a Sui and Hong, but what they do have is this humble, kind personality that comes across, and their elements are very wow. They have that wow element factor. Everything they do is big. Their programs, that Elvis, I feel like Tamara was like, I'm tired. Just do whatever you guys want. And they were like, let's do Elvis. The fact that they finished second at Russian National, I think is probably because they're tired. They're not motivated. Like, there's no international competition. Why are they going all out for a home competition? I feel like that was the factor as to why they were like, whatever, we'll just take the silver and call it a day. I don't think they're at their peak. I don't think they have the motivation to be at their peak. Right now, I feel like a lot of the Russian athletes are wondering, are we even going to get to see Milan? Are we going to be there 2026? God willing, this war will be over way, way, way before we get to 2026. Good Lord, I put this before you and I pray. And we will see the Russians at, Milan. But I feel like right now that's in question, that's in doubt. And a lot of these skaters are probably struggling to find motivation. So I can understand why they're not going all out. And then our winner here was Kozlovskii and Boikova. I am always butchering their name. I'm very happy for them that they won, because the 2020 season was supposed to be their season. They were riding a high. They were riding a momentum. The judges were giving them scores that I was really just questioning, but they were so consistent that you could see where it was built. And I think had the 2020 world happened, the same way I believe Aliona, she was born to be a diva, Kostanaya would have won that world, I also thought they would have won that world. And the fact that, they didn't get to go to that world, and then their momentum just kind of got deflated and they got passed and they became the third pair in Russia, really, it wasn't a good situation for them. And I feel like that probably really hurt them. Although I have to say, the fact that she threw her credentials at Tuktamysheva, the one and only Tuktamysheva, has put her on my shit list, and there she will remain. Like, who are you, boo-boo? You ain't nobody. Who are you throwing your credentials for? You're the one who didn't land your jump and couldn't win. Anyhow, but still, regardless of my pettiness, I'm still very happy for them that they won this national. I'm sure it would have meant a lot more for them if there were international competition, but still to see them win here is great. And you could tell, like, they're keeping that competitive nature going inside of Russia. And also some of the junior teams coming up in Russia are just lovely. I feel like in the next 4 years, when we get to Milan, God willing, the world will have righted itself from some of this madness. I don't even think these three pairs that are the top three now will necessarily be the ones going to Milan if Russia gets to go. I can see one or two of them being knocked off and some of these juniors rising up and being that new star. But all in all, absolutely loved what I'm seeing in the growth of pairs. Not necessarily the program, Santa onesie, not necessarily the program, but in the growth of what's going on in pairs in Russia. I am very happy with what I'm seeing. Next discipline, and without a doubt, my favorite discipline in Russia was the men. Mikhail Kolyada wasn't at this event. I'm not sure why he wasn't here. I don't think it's a serious injury because he's still doing shows. Hopefully he'll get it together and we can see him at whatever ends up happening with Russian skating next year. Also, Mark Kundratek had to withdraw after the short program due to injury. This was really sad because all season long, it really seems like Russian Figure Skating Federation was pushing Mark to be their next men champion. So the fact that he couldn't claim this Russian title, I really feel like was a missed opportunity for him. Again, hopefully he'll come back, Jesus Christ Superstar stronger next season, and we'll get even more fantastic programs from him. Before we get to the podium, I want to discuss some of the other men, like my poor baby Arthur Danilian. He continues to go on a downward spiral, and he ended up 12th here. So much talent, so much potential, just the inability to put it together. But it's okay because I will go down with this ship. I will ride this ship going straight towards that iceberg until Arthur gets it together. Another favorite who did much better here, Dmitrii Aliev. He looked better than I've seen him in years. I really didn't think a dark rock version of I Will Always Love You was what I needed. I thought Whitney Houston did it just fine, but no, Aliev proved me wrong. He was like, this is what I needed in my life. Really a big fan of this program on him. Now for the podium. Bronze went to Alexander Samarin. I could have sworn I read somewhere that Samarin was drafted. So honestly, I was not expecting to see Samarin this entire season. What I will say about Samarin is such a nice guy. I love his relationship with his coach and how self-aware they are, both of them, about his skating. Samarin has some of the most amazing jumps for the men's discipline when he's on. However, the rest of the skating, I'm just gonna say he's a really nice guy. At this competition, Samarin did enough, and the other competitors failed to perform, and he happily won his bronze medal. And I'm also really happy to see this because he's such a nice guy. Silver went to my baby Peter Gumennik. Even though his score of 295.07 was a tied score, even though personally I would have given this title to Peter Gumennik, he walked away with the silver medal here. I honestly feel like Peter's skating skill program delivery was the best of the three medalists. Technically, there were some problems. However, overall, I still felt like he did enough to win this title. But the judges felt differently. I was really happy to see him skate a clean short program for the first time this entire season. And I was even happier to see his coach smile and have her waiting to exhale moment. She was just exhaling out, and I was really happy to see it. Honestly, his coach, Veronica Denico, she scares me a little. I'm not gonna lie, she scares me a little. However, you could tell that she is invested in helping him skate well. So even though I felt like my PD got robbed just a little, it wasn't such an absurd robbery that I felt like we should picket fence. But I did feel like he should have been the gold medalist. But we all saw how deep Alexei Mishin's team rolled in, so we already knew how things were going to go down. Now, our winner of the night was the one and only, the drama after my own heart, Mr. Evgeny Semenenko. Love it or hate it, Evgeni has a point of view and a preferred performance aesthetic. For an Alexei Mishin student, Semenenko has some of the worst jump technique I have ever seen. How the judges found the positive GOE to award some of these jumps was truly Russian skating judging at its best. While Semenenko is not my personal preference as a skater, there is something oddly endearing about him and his skating. I think it's about how convicted, like the conviction with which he does these programs. Even though you're like, you still cannot help but be impressed with his level of conviction. Aside from the skating, I have to mention how great it was seeing the men backstage, seeing the camaraderie amongst these male skaters. I always find it so sad that in women's skating and in women's competition in general, These young women are having so much stress, so much pressure that they hardly have any breathing room to be in the moment and enjoy it, and to also enjoy their competitors. But that is obviously not, the situation for these young men. You saw them backstage, you saw them talking, you saw them chatting, you saw them hugging each other, pumping each other, uplifting each other. That is such a positive environment that honestly, I feel like I wish we could have the same thing in the women's discipline. Now that we're finished with all the niceties, it is time to get down to the meat of Russian national and all Russian related drama. Now, it is a new year, but Russian figure skating is still giving us all the drama for our mama. To start with, two out of the three Russian women who were at the Beijing Olympic were nowhere to be seen for the 2023 Russian national. Yes. If you ever doubted whether the Eteri Tutberidze expiration date was a real thing, we now have 3 cycles to firmly confirm the Eteri expiration date. Now, Aleksandra, Sasha, Trusova, our little warrior queen, made a valiant effort all season. However, in the end, she just couldn't make it to the finish line. To add insult to injury, Channel 1, Eteri, and her bots had the audacity to think that they could play the same blame the child bullshit after Sasha got done with her ass and try to blame the child again. However, Eteri, I have a little word of wisdom for you. If there is one student out there, out of all the students who you have broken, whom you have destroyed, that is likely to snatch you ball, I think that student is Sasha. This child has more backbone than you will ever know. And I feel like if you keep messing with her, she really will introduce you to both George and Georgina. Honestly, Eteri, you in Channel 1 messing with Alexandra Sasha Trusova is the very definition of fuck around and you will find out. I really recommend you stop right where you are, Eteri, because you know what? Karma really is a bitch, and you are accumulating some very negative karma. Leave that child alone if you don't mind. I guess you could say in positive turn of event, Sasha now has her first senior medal because she is now the official 2022 Russian national champion. Because of course that title was taken away from Kamila Valieva. But I'll get to that later. Let me save that rant for later. Um, then we move on to Anna Shcherbakova. After knee surgery at the ripe old age of 18, Anna Shcherbakova did not even pull an Alina Zagitova and act like she was returning to skating. Anna is smart and she knows the game by now. Also, may I add how cute and healthy Anna look nowadays? This is what a healthy 18-year-old, not on puberty blocker, not eating 3 shrimps a day, not on a liquid diet looks like. I always thought Anna was naturally skinny, but now we realize it was all the dietary drugs and the puberty blocker they had this child on. Her little cheeks, she looks so adorable and healthy, and I'm so happy to see that. As for our third triple A, who was not even within the running for the Olympic, but I have to mention it because Aliona, she was born to be a diva, has a special place in my heart. She is still spilling the tea, and letting us know that healthy limbs are worth more than gold medals in 5 quads. But she is now teasing us with pair skating and now has her third broken arm. I'm not sure what is going on with our Aliona. She was born to be a diva Kostanaya. However, Eteri better pray that Alyona and Sasha never get over the Plushenko hot Sergei drama and decide to make up and gang up. Because you know that Alyona would be just hyping up Sasha Trusova while Sasha snatches Eteri Tutberidze ball. You know if those two ever got together, it would not be good news for Eteri Tutberidze. As for the one skater of the three women who went to Russia that did make it, who went to Beijing, to the Beijing Olympic, that did make it to the Russian national, there is so much to unpack with Kamila Valieva. To start with, the Russian anti-doping agency RUSADA found that Kamila Valieva bared no fault or negligence in this doping case. They're saying yes, there was drug in her system. They're saying yes, she failed the drugging test. They're saying yes, she should not have been eligible to compete at Russian national. But they're saying none of this is her fault. None of this had anything to do with it. So then, if that's the case, whose fault was it? Oh, I remember it was Grandpa Valieva's fault. Grandpa did it, not the doctor that was previously found guilty for drugging Russian war. No, he's not the guilty party. Not Eteri Tutberidze, who had complete and total control of her athlete to the point where she told Alina Zagirova's mother, you cannot see your child until after the Olympic. And Zagirova's mother listened and followed Eteri. No, Tutberidze is not the guilty party. And it's not Valieva who consumed what was given to her. No, it must be Grandpa. It is definitely Grandpa who's guilty. And what they're not saying is, since they did find her guilty of doping, had those tests, had those results been made public, Valieva would never have been eligible for the Olympics. And I need you, Eteri, to keep saying, oh, but she tested negative during the entire Olympic. That's not how this works. Once you have been found guilty doping as a active athlete, you are disqualified. That Russian national drug test that she failed disqualified her for European, it disqualified her for the Olympic. Her foot should have never made it to the Beijing ice because she was guilty of doping. But we're not going to none of that was her fault. None of that is Eteri's fault. None of that is the shady doctor's fault. It's all Grandpa's fault. Instead, Kamila Valieva is doing Wednesday covered on ice and is going viral. And so we're basically telling the world, if you are a little Russian girl and you're 15 years old and your coach and grandpa and whoever dopes you, you still get to compete at the Olympic. You still get to keep all of your international titles and you get to go viral. I love how this is just a big middle finger to all the skaters who killed themselves, who remain drug-free and try to compete. Thank you for that middle finger to clean skating. I want the next skater who accidentally puts on a cream and that cream has a substance that is not in compliance with the doping regulation. I want to see that skater be told they cannot compete. Because I will be the first one to donate to the GoFundMe for that skater to sue the ISU, to sue the International Olympic Committee, to sue CAS, to sue WADA. I want to see that happen after this nonsense that just went down with RUSADA. I want to see it. I really want to see it. But you know what I will agree on? I will 100% agree that none of this is Valieva's fault. Because after all, Kamila Valieva is a child. She was a 15-year-old child and those around her drugged her. What I do not agree with and will never agree with is the nonsense that no one is being held accountable. Eteri is still getting her 40% living her best life. Her entire team still getting their 40% living their best life. The only person that seems to be getting any punishment are the clean skaters that had to compete against drugged up skaters. As a matter of fact, Eteri is doing better than ever, and her 40% empire just went international because Daniel Grasso is now bringing her in 40% from the Italian Skating Federation. I mean, we can't blame Daniel Grasso because he's obviously seeing that there is no penalty for anything that Eteri Tutberidze and company have done. And he also knows that when you go to Eteri Tutberidze, you get that 10% bonus. And after the outcome that he had at Italian National, he probably feel he needs that 10% bonus in the PC. So I don't even blame him for going to Eteri because the system is created for an Eteri. I mean, after all Daniel Grasso is doing is taking a page out of Maurizio Kitelashvili's playbook because Maurizio has damn sure been getting scores that none of us could justify because he is an Eteri student. So all Daniel is doing is following the playbook that the ISU has told him work. Now, as for the actual two discipline in terms of their skating, starting with ice dance at the Russian National was a pathetic joke. The Russian Figure Skating Federation brought this on themselves. How many of their young ice dance team was destroyed so that they could send Eteri Tutberidze's daughter to the Olympic? This is their karma coming back to bite them. Russia once had a great ice dance discipline. However, they decided Diana Davis and Gleb Smokin, Miss I couldn't find an edge to save my mama's life, was worth them crushing all of their younger team, taking away opportunities from all of their younger team to send her to the Olympic to appease Eteri. Oh, by the way, Mother Russia, where's your beloved Diana and Gleb Smokin now? They damn sure ain't in Russia, are they? Oh, right. They are getting themselves a green card in the US while performing in Christmas specials. The rumor has it that the US is going to deny them, but nothing has been confirmed yet. I'm waiting for the paperwork. And now they're trying to go to the Israeli team. Eteri Bops, you know I'm coming for you. You know I'm just waiting for my paperwork to be in order so that I can come for you guys. Because you know what? At the end of the day, Mother Russia was never good enough for Eteri's daughter to skate and train in Mother Russia. But it's okay. You Eteri Bots can take this however you see fit. Eteri has clearly stated that the drug-filled, abusive training environment of Symbol 70 may be good for other people's daughter, but not for her precious child. Other people may have to get their knees, hip, and whatnot surgically fixed before the age of 18, but Eteri decided not her daughter. Eteri's daughter is not training under abusive, break your back Russian regime that you guys are so fond of. Just other people's children. Yet despite all of this, the Russian Skating Federation was willing to bury my beloved Aleksandra Stefanova and Ivan Bukin to pop up Diana and Gleb. It got so bad that Stefanova and Bukin had to join force with Morozov. They had to join Nikolai Morozov to prevent the Federation from putting Diana and Gleb Smokin ahead of them. And what about poor Tiffany Zagorski and Jonathan Guerrero, who worked for years to earn that third spot for the Olympic? I don't care what anyone said happened. Everything that went down with Tiffany is suspicious and is getting a side eye from me. Funny how the destruction of Tiffany and Jonathan conveniently gave an Olympic birth to Diana and Gleb Smokin. A birth that took place at the cost of more talented teams like Betlina Popova and Sergei Morsgov. We also had Anastasia Koskova and Kirill Alishin. There was also Anastasia Splevila and Gregory Smirnov. Even you could put in there Annabelle Morozov and Andrei Bagin. All of these teams were kicked to the curb so that Russian Figure Skating Federation could push Diana Davis and Gleb Smokin only because Diana is Eteri Tuberedzi's daughter. I'm sorry, what happened at the 2023 Russian national and ice dance is the rightfully deserved karma of the Russian Figure Skating Federation. Honestly, there were only two ice teams that I was looking forward to seeing at that event. That was Annabelle Morozov and David Narazim and Vasilia Kaganovskaya and Valerie Angelopov. But the skating gods were not on my side. Both of these teams withdrew. I don't know why Vasiliev and Valerie withdrew, but we do know that Annabelle and David broke up. My favorite team this season split. They split because my man David chose love. Love. Yes, David did not want to train in the US because that would mean leaving his girlfriend behind. I respect his choice. I respect his choice, but couldn't they have decided to break up after Russian National? And then after Russian National, David's girlfriend, who was paired with another guy, also just broke up. So I wonder if David and his girlfriend are not going to form a new ice dance pair. Well, anything is worth trying because Russia definitely needs help right now in terms of the ice dance. The Federation had to pick winners since the medals were non-refundable and they had already paid for it. And so we ended up with a podium. And I use the term winner lightly. So the podium was Elizaveta Khudaiberdieva, Egor Bazin. The silver medalist was Elizaveta Shemieva and Pavel Durovs. And the bronze was Elizaveta Pashmenki and Maxim Nakosov. I mean, the real winner of that night was probably the name Elizaveta. I mean, Elizaveta and Egor were denied a chance to go to the Olympic because Eteri used her power to steal that spot for her daughter. Well, now Elizaveta and Egor knows what it's like to be given something, not because they're talented or skilled or earned it, but because the politics are behind them. Because honestly, the short program was a hot mess. The rhythm dance was a hot mess. The free dance was a hot messery +1. There is no way on any international competition that Elizaveta and Egor would have won that night. But the politics were behind them, and so they won. I'm making bunny ears. You guys can't see it. As for the other two, it's not even worth talking about. And unfortunately, this is what Russian ice dance has been reduced to. And I can't even feel bad because, again, the Russian Skating Federation brought this upon themselves by pushing Diana Davis and Gleb Smokin all the way to the top, not based on their talent, not based on their skills, not based on anything other than the fact that Eteri Tuberidze wanted her daughter to be at the top and go to the Olympic. I can't feel bad for a federation that did that to their own skater. This is their just deserve. And finally, the women. Oh, the women. All I could say was, what in the name of Grandpa Valieva super juice is this hot mess? Let me get to the point. Sadly, this generation of Team Tutberidze young women will expire faster than any of the generations before them. Eteri and company has perfected their system in the worst way possible. That is, before the first generation is even used up, The second generation is already on the conveyor belt and ready to be mass produced. I honestly do not see any of the current Eteri girls making it to the Olympic. Let's say that Russia was to be allowed to compete at the Olympic. None of these Eteri girls are going to make it to that Olympic. Let's start with our winner of the event, Sofia Akateva. Unfortunately for her, the Eteri Tutberidze system is so generic, there is nothing special about what Akateva is doing. We can say that Aliona Kostanaya was the mold, Kamila Valieva was the finished product, and product is the term that Tutberidze herself used in regards to these children. So now then we can say Akateva is the mass-produced generic version. This is just my opinion. However, it seems like all the good heart medication and puberty blockers are being given to Akateva this season. This child is just coming back from injury, and we have several examples of what figure skaters coming back from injuries look like, and this is not it. Unfortunately, I think Akateva is just a placeholder for Team Tutberidze. They will use her to keep the brand alive while preparing for the newer version of the Eteri It Girl model. I have a lot more to say, but most of it is about child trauma, child abuse, and I don't have enough time in this video. But Akateva, thank you for your service. Next. Then we move on to Kamila Valieva. First off, the puberty blockers are no longer working, which is why she's a lot slower. Her jumps are a lot more difficult. The spins are a lot more laborious. I imagine they have probably also reduced the number of heart medication that they are giving her since there's no international competition. Remember, from the original drug test, there were 5 heart medication found in Kamila Valieva's system. This was a perfectly healthy 15-year-old girl being given 5 heart medication. My 80-year-old grandma takes no heart medication. This child was on 5 heart medication. I know everybody focused on the fact that one of those 5 heart medication was a doping banned substance, but please, can we also be outraged at the fact that there were 5 heart medication in a perfectly healthy 15-year-old system? I'm assuming that she's no longer getting these 5 heart medication because times are hard. Kamila at this moment is nothing more than a political symbol. At this point, I just felt like she's being held up just to keep the propaganda machine going. I feel for this child because I feel like Kamila could have had a brilliant career if the adults around her had a little more integrity. The only way Kamila will make it out of Russia for any competition is if the Russian Figure Skating Federation decides to continue holding down their other skaters in order to pump up Kamila Valieva. But there's no reason for them to do that when Eteri already has other versions of that same product that are going to be faster, stronger, more flexible right around the corner coming off the conveyor belt. I mean, when you take away the grandpa juice 5 heart medication factor, what you have is Kamila Valieva is a lovely, flexible skater with cheated pre-rotated jumps and no understanding of edge at this point. And that's what I'll say about Kamila Valieva. Now we move on to Elizaveta Tuktamysheva. The Empress is living her best life. At 26, her jumps are some of the best in Russia. Like someone said on Twitter, when you build the foundation right, you create something that is made to last. I'm not sure if Elizaveta can last until 2026. However, I'm invested to see her try, if for nothing else than what it will represent to these young women in Russian skating. However, I have to say, even if she was able to make it to 2026, there's no guarantee that the Federation will not screw her over once again if Eteri has three little 17-year-olds who are jumping 5 quads. However, when it comes to pure technical ability and probably the ability to last, because the mission technique is a good technique, I'm always going to bet my money on the Empress. Then we had Sofia Muravieva. I actually have the most hope for her out of the group of the young women who were at the Russian National. The reason why I say this is because Evgeni Plushenko, as a student of Alexei Mishin, is still jumping triples at 40. Plushenko should understand what having sound foundation and good technique means. With healthy, proper management, and if Plushenko continues to gain, political favor and power within the Russian Skating Federation, I could see Sofia M at the 2026 Olympic if the Russians are allowed to compete. I think even the Eteri loving Russian Figure Skating Federation has learned their lesson from the fiasco that was the Beijing meltdown. I feel even they will be a little reluctant to send 3 Tutberidze women to the Olympic again. I feel even they have learned by now. Let us not push up one coach, one school, and crush all of the others, because when one of them is found positive of doping, shit will hit the fan. As hard-headed as they might be, I would like to believe even they have learned something from the nightmare that is Beijing. But then again, I might be giving them a lot more credit than they deserve. But having said that, I do feel like out of this current group of competing young women, Sofia M is the one that I feel, both in terms of technique and in terms of school and coach power, who might make it to 2026 if the Russians are allowed to skate. Then we have Adelila Petrosian. That team reaction to her short, both Eteri and Danny G, I'm just going to say you guys can eat it. I've said this before and I will say it again. If any of these kids were my kids, girl or boy, Eteri would have caught these hands a long time ago. As for Danny G, it would have been a kick to the left nut. Like, what the hell are you guys in that kiss and cry making all that face for? That child already knows what she did. She already knows she had a fall. She already know it wasn't a good skate. We don't need all that drama from you guys. You're not the one on the ice. Anyhow, please let's stop with the sideboard drama. Keep it for the back of the room. Having said that, I honestly like Adelina. I like her personality. I like her drive. I feel like she's one of those people who could become a real character in figure skating. However, under the Eteri system, she's just a placeholder. We know from experience what the outcome for Adelina will be. This child is coming back from injury, and already they have her doing the full pre-rotated triple axel. This technique we know that wears on the hip, the back, and the knees. They have her doing a triple axel. And this, let me not. I feel like Adelina's face, when you add in the quad, it's already sealed. It's already a done deal. I mean, these girls are nothing but product to Eteri and company, and they can be used just to keep the brand going until the newer version comes around. If we are being perfectly honest, Adelina is 15 years old right now, and she's already suffering injury. The Eteri expiration date is 17 years old. By 2026, Adelina will be 19. She will already be 2 years past her life shelf. She will already be an old, useless product per Eteri's terminology, and a younger model and upgraded version will already be out on the market. This is the sad reality of women skating in Russia. This is especially true for Team Tutberidze. I personally like Adelila, but again, thank you. Next. Then we have Anastasia Zinina. I don't really have much to say about her except that short program is offensively bad. Offensively bad. That is 2.5 minutes of my life I would like to get back. Thank you. Then we have Sofia Samondolkina. This is what a skater looks like when they are adjusting to a growth period. This is what comes with puberty, the natural pubertic process. This is what it looks like. If if Sofia S was from another federation, I would say she has a chance to grow into her body to become a full skater and make it to the Olympic. But Sofia Samondolkina herself had already said the Beijing Olympic was probably her only chance to get out of Russia to go to an Olympic. So this child already knows her reality much better than any of us ever will. She literally said this out of her own mouth. And this is at 16. She already understands what her career entails. And that is really heartbreaking. And one of my favorite skaters, Xenia Sinitsina. Oh, she dropped from 6 and finished 8. However, I don't care. Her short program it was the one program of the entire national, long and short, that I will rewatch. This is a beautifully balanced, well packaged, effortless skater. She listens to the music. She understands the music. She has beautiful body movement, nice position, wonderfully packaged. It's unfortunately that the Danny G pantomiming style is what's taking over in Russia and what's considered to be desirable, because obviously what Senya is giving us is a breath of fresh air, and I really wish skating, especially in Russia, would go that way and less towards the Danny G way. Um, Unfortunately, I was unable to enjoy watching the women's at Russian National. And that is because my mind kept wondering, what horrible diet are these children put on? What harmful poison are they made to inject into their bodies in order to perform these skills, these ultra C skills that we see them perform? What injuries are they being told you can skate through it? And they're taking countless, drugs, countless painkillers to get through it. As Kostonaya once said, she had taken so much painkillers at one point that the painkillers, her body became immune to it. Now I have to ask myself, what dosage of painkiller are these young women in just to get them to perform what it is they perform? I'm not even talking about the doping aspect of it, just the unhealthy toxin that is being put into their system, just the untested chemicals that we don't know what the long range effect of it will be on their bodies, on their immune system, on their reproductive system is being put on these young women's body. Thinking about all of that, I really could not enjoy any of it. I will be perfectly honest with you guys. I will say this. Yes, Russia, your young women skaters do some amazing things. However, the rest of the world doesn't have to beat them. We, as consumers of skating, we will now demand that all athletes be tested with a more stringent guideline. What that will do is it will automatically eliminate all the cheaters. All the cheaters will be eliminated because we are going to demand that we follow the Bar method. That is blood, urine, and hair. We are going to demand that they be able to test to see what was in the skater's system 3 months, 6 months. Once we start pushing for that, once we start going to the sponsors and say if we do not have proper testing, we are going to boycott, the International Olympic Committee is going to be under pressure. ISU, as corrupt as it is, the International Skating Union, they're going to be under pressure. So they're going to be forced to get the best testing system on the market. That's going to eliminate all those coaches that are drugging their athletes. So those drug athletes will not make it to the Olympic anymore. As for the rest of your skaters, Russia, the rest of the world don't have to compete against them because your system, the way it currently is, will destroy so many of them that they will never make it to the international competition. And that truly is a shame, and that truly is regrettable because you guys have so much talent, because there are so many young women in Russian skating who could honestly, truly enrich the sport of figure skating. But unfortunately, as long as Eteri Tutberidze and her minions are considered to be the standard for coaching in Russia, then the rest of the world don't have to compete against your women, Russia. They just have to wait for you to self-destruct. That was my take on the Russian national and everything that's going on with Russian figure skating right now. You guys let me know in the comment what you think.